Hello, guess what we're doing today? I'm planting my first warm season annuals in my garden, and I'm starting off with one of my absolute favorite flowers, my Gomphrena. So I have planted Gomphrena in the same bed as far back as I can remember, at least back to 2021. I will put in some pictures here so that you can see what it's looked like in the past. And I've learned a few things about what I like, what I don't like, but I will say Gomphrena is one of the easiest, most low maintenance plants I have to take care of. I've never, crossing fingers, I'm not jinxing this, I've never had any pest issues. I've never had any fungal issues. They just live without me really having to do much to them at all. And last year I learned I can plant these much closer together than recommended and they will still grow perfectly fine and just be a full bouquet of Gomphrena in the raised bed. So that's exactly what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to space them as much as I did last year, which was an accident because I thought the first round didn't look that healthy. So I planted a second round next to it and then everything lived. There's Oreo. Hi Oreo. Want to say hi? So what I didn't like about last year is that I ended up with basically a whole bed of about the same color, a light pink. There was a few variations in there, but I had two different varieties that ended up looking the same, another pink one in there, and I really missed having the bright, bold colors that I had 2 years ago. So that is what I'm going to do this year. So I will go over the varieties right now that I'm going to plant in my bed, and then we will get planting. First up is QIS Orange. They all look the same here in their pellets, so I will put in images here. But QIS Orange in general, I don't really love bright orange flowers, but in the mix with all the other bright Gomphrena, I really do. So I'm definitely planting those, and I have 4 each of the varieties I'm going to plant in there. I have the Audrey Purple Red, which is a very vibrant purple. I have grown QIS Purple in the past. It was more of like a two-toned, a little bit paler with a little bit of white. So this is the brightest purple I've grown so far. I have Strawberry Fields, which is a bright red color. I can't remember if I didn't grow it last year and I really missed it, or if it just got covered by all the pink ones, but I missed having this bright red in the garden. And then my favorite color is Carmine because it's hot pink and I love anything pink. Now this is probably the year I'm growing the least. I'm only again growing 4 of each variety, but these will be very productive plants and I do not have room for Gomphrena many other places. Now there are 3 varieties I'm not planting in there, or maybe 4, but all of the white Gomphrena, I think that's going to go on the garage deck because I think that will look really nice against the black pergola and the black pots. And then on the back deck I'm going to plant Raspberry Cream, which is again a light pink color. I'm going to plant Lavender Lady, which is a pastel purple. Most of the pastels are going out back. And then Salmon and Rose. So last year I got QIS Salmon and QIS Rose and they all ended up the same color. And based on the photos on the website, I think they all ended up being the rose color. So I'm doing that again and seeing if they all are the same color, which I'm assuming they will be. But that's what I'm going to plant today. So let's head over to the Gomphrena bed and we'll get these added in. I have already refreshed these beds. I did that in a recent video. I'll link down below. So I basically emptied it out, put in some perlite for drainage, put in compost for nutrients. I also added in some blood meal into the mix. And what I'm going to add now at planting time is Biotone, which is a granular slow release fertilizer. Typically I will dig a hole and then put this in the hole, but since they're all going to be pretty much close together, I'm just going to sprinkle it across the top and rake it in with my fingers. Next, I'm going to lay out the Gomphrena. I'm basically going to mix all the colors together, so I'm going to do that now and try not to mix them up because only the front one is labeled. So for example, I'm going to start with a Carmine here, then a Strawberry, Audrey Purple Red, and I will adjust the spacing once I get everything in order. An Orange, and then I did decide that I think I'm going to put the Raspberry Cream in here as well because I want to fit more plants in this bed, so I will have 5 different varieties of Gomphrena growing in here. I think that looks pretty good. So I will maybe adjust a little bit of spacing as I plant, but I did want to point something out. You can choose to plant with the material from the pellet around it, which is what I normally do. You can also remove it. Sometimes it breaks down completely from my experience, and sometimes it doesn't. So this is an example of actually a Gomphrena from last year where the pellet didn't completely break down. You can still see that material in there, but I've never had it inhibit the growth. So I'm just gonna plant it like I always have. All right, here we go. I am very excited. And I'm gonna start with the ends just so those are about the same, evenly spaced. And I think some of these I might need to thin as well, or just let them go crazy. And I'm just planting them at the same depth as they are planted in the pellet. There we go. Now these have been hardened off. I want to make sure you harden off your seedlings before just moving them outside so they get used to the elements, which are a little bit more harsh than inside of your home. Now the second row I'm just going to plant in between so that you can see it between the two in the front row. And then the last step is to water. And there we go. My irrigation is not on yet. I usually wait until I have everything planted. That way I know where all the emitters need to go, and then I will set up and turn on my irrigation. Usually that happens around the end of May, beginning of June. So for now, I do have to water it with my hose and remember to come out and check on my plants. A few other things about Gomphrena: they do like to be grown in full sun. If you have a part sun area and that's all you have, try it. It might just not get as large or flower as often. And they are drought tolerant, so even if I forgot to water them, once they get larger, I can go for longer days without watering those compared to some of my other annuals that I'm growing in my garden. I fertilize them on the same schedule as my other ones, but again, I really just don't have to do much to keep them happy and alive. I would say the main thing that I'm really good at doing at first and then stop doing is harvesting them. I do love them dried. They're absolutely beautiful dried flowers. They look almost identical to how they look when they are fully bloomed in the garden, and they are cut and come again. So the more you harvest, the more blooms it'll produce. And if you leave the ones on there that are going to go to seed, you're going to get a mess everywhere, as I learned by having to clean up a bunch of petals because I did not stay on top of harvesting. So that's everything, I think, for this video. Planting goes so quickly. Like seed starting, I feel like there's so much more involved, and then planting, you just plop it in the ground and that's it. But I'm trying to think what might be next. These are one of my less delicate flowers, so I can move them out earlier. Now these will flower later than most of my other flowers, even though I started them first and I've planted them outside first. But usually I'll see flowers on these probably mid to end July, just starting to open up, but then they hold on to that flower color and continue to bloom up until last frost. And then even if you leave some of them in the garden, they will hold their color for a little bit as well into the winter. So yeah, I think that's gonna be everything for this video. I'm very excited to have my first summer annuals in the garden. I will see you in the next one. Bye.